There's a poem that I recall, and it has a line going something like this: "When I'm old, I will wear purple." So here I am old, and I'm going to give you purple prose. What you just heard was half the story. My position is very clear. All crime comes from trauma. All psychiatry comes from trauma. Trauma destroys delight. Trust cures trauma. Those are the 4 opening statements. And we need people like Edwina, Dan, and the organizations to make these not outrageous, but everyday. If you're dealing with crime and you want to understand it and you want to curtail it, you need to look for the trauma. If you're into psychiatry, when I started in psychiatry, the whole thing was fuzz. It was like moving into a room with a whole series of dark, moving objects which you couldn't really see. Different stories about different things. Trauma turns on the light. Bang! Suddenly you see all psychiatric problems, and I do mean all, come from a long ago trauma. Now, trust, a 5-letter word. You cannot buy it. You have to earn it. And as my work showed in Parkhurst, you have to learn it. Trauma destroys trust. When you're a small child growing up, you have to trust the people looking after you. They're adults, you are not. You're a small child. They feed you, they look after you, they keep you warm, or they don't. Emotional trauma, neglect, is the most serious. You cannot be physically abused or sexually abused if you are well looked after. Trauma destroys trust. So you have a whole population growing up who do not believe in trust. They do not believe in delight. You cannot feel delight and enjoy life, which is a wonderful thing. You cannot enjoy life if you are on guard all the time. Hypervigilant is the technical term. But what it does is destroy trust. And we all need support. Homo sapiens is a social animal. No one is safe until we're all safe. Now then, trauma blocks thought. That's how it manages to underlie all crime and all psychiatry. Remember that trust can unblock thought, but trust is a very invaluable faculty. I'm going to illustrate these points with 3 clinical cases. I mentioned them in my handout, which has gone out. The first case is Lenny. Lenny is a large 45-year-old whose thoughts are blocked for him to say that. He cannot say, I am an adult. So this is preposterous. Here you have a man who everybody can see is an adult, everybody knows he's an adult, except him. I want you to think about that. Here you have a man, obviously an adult, unable to say, I am an adult. Now that shows his frontal lobes aren't working correctly. His speech center isn't working correctly. And the evidence from brain scans is that if you are traumatized, your frontal lobes and your speech center go offline. You cannot think and speak clearly about the trauma. So I want to show you a video shortly which should satisfy you that this adult, talking fluently about everything else, cannot say, I am an adult. Now think about that. His thinking machinery has been destroyed by trauma. And as you watch him, it's being restored by trust. The second case is Mary. Mary had a shocking childhood. Her father raped her repeatedly. So she comes to her therapist, who I'll call Jane, with a history of psychotic symptoms. Psychotic symptoms are hallucinations, delusions, terror. As she's falling asleep, she hears in the corridor men coming in to rape her. They aren't there, but they are there in her mind. So that's the second case. The third case is Alec. I met him when he was 24 in Parkhurst, Isle of Wight, and he told me that part of him wanted to kill, and as long as that part did, he would kill. He made it quite clear when he came into prison that that's what he was going to do. He had already done it in prison, and at one stage he put me on his hit list. Fortunately, we managed to sort that before it went too far, but nevertheless, that was what was going on. So, trauma blocks thought. That's rule number one. And I want now to show you, well, I'll put the slide up first, if I can have the slide, please, because this is the dialogue. Now, there's quite a lot to take in there, so I'm going to spend 5 minutes on the first line. Line 37. I say, do you find that surprising that you find it difficult to tell your mother you're an adult? You see? What does that tell you? It confirms that he can't say the words. It also confirms that we're now on the same side looking at the problem. Now, this doesn't come out of the blue. I must have seen him 3 or 4 times, and this is the first time I've managed to get permission from him and from the prison governor to videote him. So this is the first video. Do you find that surprising? So I'm asking him for a reaction. Okay, let's try this to the other 2 cases. Hello, Mary. Do you find it surprising that you find it difficult to tell your dad he was wrong to rape you? You and I can see he's obviously wrong. Let's go through 4 points. Was he wrong to rape her? Yes. Can Mary say you were wrong? No. Should she be able to say he was wrong? Yes. Did Mary come in and say, well, my problem and all the psychotic symptoms I'm having are coming from the fact that I can't tell my father he shouldn't have raped me? They are, but she can't. It's the same with Lenny. Lenny, is he an adult? Yes. Can he tell his mother? No. Should he be able to tell her? Yes. Does he start by saying, my violent history comes from the fact I can't tell my mother I'm an adult? No. But when it does, his violence goes. And he doesn't even start unless he trusts me. And I trust him, but anyway. So you go to Alec. Hello, Alec. Do you find it surprising that you can't tell your father he was wrong to throw your mother downstairs? If you've got a relationship with Alec that is sound and solid and trustworthy, he will say yes. If he doesn't, he will threaten to kill you, which is what had happened. So be very careful, but never that's what you're going. So let's do the 4 points on Alec. Was your father wrong to throw your mother downstairs? Yes. Can you tell him? No. No? No. Should you be able to tell him? Yes. Did you start off by saying, I'm a serial killer because I can't tell my father he was wrong to throw my mother downstairs? Now, you may not know why serial killers kill. I can guarantee if you ask any serial killer anywhere in the world why they killed, they will not be able to tell you. Oh, yes, but nothing substantial. This is the reason. And of the people who need convincing, the first one is Alec. He needs convincing that there is a background to his serial killing. And there it is. So, let's continue with the rest of the slide. Line 37 we've done. Do you find it surprising? Now, this doesn't come out of the blue. He finds it surprising, and then he says, yes, very surprising. I'm reading this, and then I'm going to show you the video with this as the last part of the clip. And I'm reading it so you'll know what to look for. Yes, very surprising. It is, isn't it? I say cheerfully. So, what will stop you? I'm trying to bring him into today's reality. His mother hasn't hit him for 40 years, but she hits him all the time in his head. So what will stop you? Say your mother was sitting over there. What would you say to her? Do not try this at home. This is an invitation to re-traumatization. I'm trying it here because I've got enough trust between us. I can protect him from this elusive mother, and he believes I can. He trusts me to do that. So I can ask him that. So you can see him hunching up like this. I'd say, Mother, you can't hit me anymore. I'm an adult. Just look at that hard, please. You can't hit me anymore. What does that mean? That means that she's hitting him now. You can't hit me anymore. Trauma has blocked his thinking. I'm cheeky. I say, and you believe that? And he says, partly. Bless him. He's being honest. He's being true. He's trusting me. So I say, you partly believe it and partly don't. This is the thinking. This is where psychiatry goes. Talk about mental health. It's like physical health. You can run all over the place if you're physically well, and you can't if you're physically ill. Here's mental health. He cannot think in this area. So what would stop you? I'm trying to get him to think it through. I'm trying to get him to put two and two together, trying to get the thought processes going, trying to get pushing through the blocks in his frontal lobes. So what would stop you? Fear. Admittedly, we've had 3 or 4 sessions before. I've coached him, but nevertheless, fear. More concrete. What are you frightened of? What is she going to do? And look at line 48. Well, she might get up and clout me. Look at that. We're in a maximum security prison cell. I can hardly get in there myself. His mother's no chance of getting in there. But look what's happening in his mind all the time. She might get up and clout me. Right. Can we show the video? And I want you to wait for this at the end. The video, please. So how would you describe to somebody who didn't know anything about it what questions I'm asking you and what we're doing?
Well, it's about my mother. How she used to batter me when I was a kid.
What effect did this have on you?
Well, it made me frightened.
Did it?
Yeah.
What happened to the fear?
It's embedded.
Still there, is it?
Yeah.
Doesn't help you, does it?
No.
So what effect does this embedded fear have?
Made me violent.
Did it?
Yeah.
How does that work?
I don't know.
Why does embedded fear make you violent?
Well, she used violence on me all the time, and I grew up to violence, didn't I? You know what I mean?
But you're a big lad, you're an adult, so why are you still frightened of your mother? It's still there, isn't it?
I'm still there, yeah.
So why hasn't it changed? Why is it still there, do you think?
Well, it's all part of growing up, isn't it?
Well, if he hasn't, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's still stuck there. Because we talked about this morning, didn't we?
Yeah.
Being an adult. Could you tell you're an adult?
Yeah, I could try.
You'd find it difficult?
Yeah,
You would, wouldn't you?
I would, yeah.
Did you find that surprising that you finally done with telling your mother you're an adult?
Yeah, very surprising.
It is, isn't it? So what would stop it? Say if your mother was sitting over there, what would you say to her?
I'll tell your mother. You can't hit me anymore. I'm an adult.
And you believe that?
Yeah, partly.
You partly believe it, partly don't?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I don't know that I could say it to her or not.
What would stop you?
Fear.
Well, fear of what? What's she going to do?
Well, she might get up and clown me.
She might get up and clout me. Unreal. Impossible. But because his thought block, that's what he comes up with. I repeat, all crime comes from trauma through thought blockage. All psychiatric problems, the hallucinations, the delusions, and the pain and the panics that Mary had come from the same. The remedy is trust. Human beings can be delightful. People who've been traumatized do not believe that. I just want to read you a couple of lines from Alec, because he also agreed to be videotaped. And when I first saw him, he said, and this is line 194 for reference, Alec, but like I said since I've been in prison, yes, I will kill again. I know I'll kill again. And part of me wants to kill again. And as long as that part wants to, I will let it. Does that sound like criminal thinking? Where does it come from? He didn't know, and he would not talk about it. When he first arrived, he said, "Get me off this Isle of Wight. I don't want to come to this sea with the special unit. It's a dangerous place. Get me off this Isle of Wight." Happily for me and for him, we had a brilliant staff member who met him in reception and was very consensual, very much choice, very much collaboration. And he came. So 2 years later, he describes his mother's visit, right? And you know, my mum on the visit, she said, "You've really matured. You've really suddenly from being a kid and being all teenagery and all that, you've wiped that out." She said, "And now you can see the seriousness in your face when you're talking about things. Look at the change. The part of him that wanted to kill has gone." Other parts of the dialogue, he said, "I'm now talking to Big Jim over there. We haven't spoken for 9 months, but I went up there and said, we're in the same thing together." This is part of no one is safe until we're all safe. I can't feel safe unless I trust the people around me. When I trust the people around me, then I can joke. I can have fun. I can take delight in living, in breathing, and being. Without trust, forget it. And the real tragedy is, from infancy onwards, too many infants are taught distrust. The father is the child is the father of the man. All children are impressionable. All children need to learn to trust. If you can trust, you can take delight. If you can trust, you can reduce violence and crime, like you saw both with Lenny, who was beginning to trust there. But the number one thing I want you to remember is that trauma blocks thought. You talk to somebody and they suddenly go off on a tangent. They go off to airy-fairy, they go off onto inconsequential stuff. My mother is going to hit me in this prison cell. It doesn't make any sense. But Lenny needed trust to undo that, and with the trust, we unblocked it. Thank you for your attention.